This hour of news and views is sponsored by African Muslims Agency. African Muslims Agency, a beacon of hope to communities for over 35 years in Africa and beyond. And joining us right now is, coincidentally, African Muslims Agency. We'll be joined by Hafiz Hussain Choonara, who's going to be giving an overview of AMA's Qurbani program, its main objectives, and importantly, how you can get involved. Assalamu alaikum, Hafiz. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, Salah, and to all the listeners and viewers of Salam Media. Jazakallah for having us on.
I mean, Qurbani season is again upon us. I'm sure AMA has a lot of plans, a lot of programs lined up. Can you give us an overview of those programs and most importantly, its objectives?
Absolutely. Firstly, coming out the blessed month of Ramadan in the countries that we've worked in the month of Ramadan, these are the countries and areas that have been identified for the Qurbani season. And, with Qurbani and African Muslims Agency, is not just a day of Eid where people are given meat. Qurbani is a preparation long before, where, for example, in Africa, what we would do, we would buy animals, goats, from the local communities, local villages in the rural part of Africa. You must understand right now, we've identified areas like Malawi. Malawi has been declared a state of disaster. People in remote villages do not have access to any nourishing meals. The north of Mozambique, in the Zambezia province, not many people go to the north of Mozambique. In the north of Mozambique, 95% Muslim population, millions of people in the remote villages do not have access to any kind of nourishment or to the outside world. We're talking about the widows and the orphans of Afghanistan who right now are facing difficulty in poverty and many other challenges. The Syrian and Palestinian refugee camps, amongst many other countries. But I'm touching on those communities as well as the communities right here in South Africa. So what we do in our Qurbani process is we would purchase these livestock from the locals. So we would empower them by giving them, of course, funding for the livestock, but then we work with them through the weeks and rear these goats and these animals together so that they become part and parcel of the process of Udhiyah, but also we'll have educational programs in Mozambique, in Malawi, at the AMA Masajid to educate the people of why it's important, why is Qurbani important, what's happening now in the days of Hajj. So these are the processes that take place. As you can see the pictures that's on screen, the process already begun in the different countries. For example, this is Afghanistan as well, where the animals have been chosen. So we would then teach, have an educational program of Udhiyah, of Hajj, leading up to the day of Eid. And then when the day of Eid comes, my brother, it's not only a distribution of meat, but it's a celebration. It's a coming together of communities. It's a coming together like you and I would come together on the day of Eid. And of course, it's a day of sacrifice, but also a day of sharing as well, inshallah.
No, definitely. And, you touched a bit on, some of the countries that, you'll be operating in during this Qurbani program. If you can just, give us a bit of their profiles. I know you touched a bit on Mozambique, Afghanistan. I'm sure there are other countries that you looked at and identified a need to be there.
Of course, in South Africa, for example, right here in home, in many communities, in the KZN Midlands, up north in the Limpopo province, and of course the Western Cape. And around South Africa, communities have been identified to be receiving the Udhiyah this Qurbani season. We're talking about Somalia as well. Somalia is facing a drought. In Somalia, our Qurbani program extends in Somalia, as well as in Mali, in Uganda, in Lesotho, and in the Syrian and Palestinian refugee camps. Right now, the footage on screen is from the Syrian and Palestinian camps last year, Qurbani program, where we know right now, hundreds of thousands of Syrians and Palestinians will live in the camps daily, who face challenges, who are not able to work in many industries, do not have access to food. They will be part and parcel of the Udhiyah program, as well as in Idlib, in Syria. The Amas Qurbani program extends as well.
And I'm pretty sure identifying the need, and some of these countries are pretty remote. I'm sure the logistics must be a nightmare. But I think for the people at home, they would like to know, how does AMA identify, select these communities and individuals who are going to receive the Qurbani meat.
Serero, our teams are permanently based in these countries. So we get in touch, in tune with the communities. We know the people by name in their homes, in their huts, in the mountaintops. So we get to identify the need of each and every family. And through this identification process, of course, through the process of Qurbani, we also include these communities, the widows, the orphans, the people in the communities, to be part and parcel of the process of udhiyah, of empowerment, because they're getting funding for the goats. They're able to keep the funding and the goats for themselves. So it's an empowerment tool as well. But because we have teams that are based 24/7 in these countries, able to identify, but inshallah also able to carry out the niyyah of the donor in these countries. So, for example, in Afghanistan, and we talked much about Africa and South Africa, but let's talk, for example, in Afghanistan right now, close to 2.5 million widows, close to 2 million orphans. A country that's in absolute dire need. We say that so often, but the dire situation, to put it in context, when we meet these families in Afghanistan, I mean, in Ramadan, one of the families we've met, the adhan was going on for iftar, but there was not even a single date in these homes. These are the families that have been identified to be receiving of the Qurbani program, inshallah.
And just lastly, I'm pretty sure in previous Qurbani programs in these countries you were involved. If there's one particular story, if you can narrate just shortly of interacting with some of these recipients from this very important program that is going to stay with you for your whole life. Is there that moment? Is there that story that you took very personally, and you would urge people to donate and give their contributions because of that one particular story and the change that you made when you arrived?
One particular instance, one particular family that you mentioned now that really sticks out to me personally was when I was in Malawi a few years ago, just before the Qurbani program, as part of our preparation, and I met a young girl. Her name was Esther, and I went into her hut and I sat with her mother and her siblings. And typical in Africa, the huts are very small, and there was nothing there in the hut. You couldn't see anything. There was no set of clothing. They were sitting on a rock floor. You couldn't smell food. And I asked the young girl, if you could write a letter to the world, what would that be? What would your message be if you could ask for anything? And around, I could see there was nothing. In my mind, I thought she would ask for the world. And she says, to South Africa and the world, how is your life? Let me tell you about my life. And here in my mind, I was thinking, okay, she's going to say, look, I don't have clothing. I don't have food. If they have 20 cents, they're able to buy waste. Imagine 20 cents. And she says, let me tell you about my life. And she says, my life is Alhamdulillah. Wow. I tell you, Sarelo, at that moment, Allah is testing her, but Allah is testing me more than her. Allah is testing us more than them. Because in that moment, she had nothing for what I could see, but she had everything because she had her faith. And we know what we have. And if this is brought to our attention, then what is our responsibility? We do not have a choice to decide if and when. We must respond. Because you see, Esther in her village in Malawi and many others like her in South Africa or in Afghanistan go beyond on a daily basis to have, if they have, whatever it is Allah provides them for the day, but they go beyond for survival every single day. You and I don't have to go beyond to that level to have. Allah's blessed us immensely and made it easy for us. So we can go beyond in whatever small way, in capacity we can, so that others don't have to. That is one story that sticks with me. And alhamdulillah, since we've met Esther and her family, she's now improving. She's going to school, alhamdulillah. So it started off with Qurbani, but now there's an empowerment thing happening there. She's able to go to school. She's able to learn. They never had shoes. She's got clothing. And her family is developing and progressing as well, alhamdulillah. So it started off with the udhiyah. And now that family has been developed, alhamdulillah.
No, Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I think very, very powerful story. They touched me a bit. I think, yeah, just lastly, contact details, those that want to get involved, how can they get hold of AMA? How can they be part of helping, people, all across the world in, using AMA as that avenue, as that vehicle, to make that change?
Please go to our website, africamuslimsagency.co.za. Updates on our social media pages at Africa Muslims Agency. Also, our offices around the country open in Johannesburg, Durban, Cape Town, or contact the 24-hour number. Details are on the website. For any information that you need for the Qurbani program, share with us your niyyah, and inshallah, we will confirm once your Qurbani is complete, no matter which part of the world it is, inshallah. Allah bless you, Salelo and the Salam Media team, for giving us the opportunity. Allah make it easy for the Ummah. Grant peace to the Ummah. Allah accept the niyyah of every single donor.
I mean, Jazakallah so much for joining us, Hussein. I really, really appreciate your time. I'm going to leave it here for now.
Jazakallah wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Yeah, that was Hafiz Hussain Choonara there, just giving us insight on their Qurbani programs, and also just sharing with us insight on how you can get involved. I think that's the most important and powerful step there. And, that story about Esther, imagine those are the kind of lives you'll be changing when you donate and get involved, whether as a volunteer or donating or, giving your time and energy to African Muslims Agency. Those are the kind of lives that you'll be changing. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Denosa, and we'll be, dissecting the National Health Insurance Bill that the president signed yesterday. They seem to be appreciating it. They seem to be having a contradictory response compared to, other organizations. So, yeah, stick around for that interview with the Democratic Nursing Organization of South Africa. We'll be speaking to their Deputy General Secretary, Gwena Manamela, after this.